I put my headset on, I created my account, selected my avatar, and within about 30 seconds of being in the communal area, I had 3 male avatars come towards me and start verbally harassing me and sexually harassing me, and then proceed to sexually assault my avatar. I asked them to stop, they refused to, and then a 4th avatar came to take photos.
Is this her first day on the internet? She got sexually assaulted in a video game. Yeah, that's never happened before, and never to a man.
In 2021, researcher Nina Patel published a blog post detailing her experience of sexual harassment in the metaverse.
Only someone who's never been assaulted would say that. Reality or fiction. Clearly you would know the difference if you had to go through that.
Since then, she says she's received death threats and hateful messages.
They were relentless in following me and were very quick to stay very close to my avatar to be able to continue the verbal and sexual harassment.
Hate and harassment can be traumatizing for many victims online. But what happens when harassment follows you to the metaverse, an online world where the lines between the virtual world and the offline world are meant to be blurred?
My experience of sexual harassment in the metaverse is the very tip of the iceberg. I know that many women have experienced some form of misogyny through digital experiences and now in the 3D metaverse as well. So I know I'm not alone.
If we listen to people who have been harassed in VR, they say it's much more like a real world experience of harassment than, say, receiving messages on social media. And they say that's because it's much more immediate. Someone's very, very close to you. It feels like a violation of your personal space.
Oh, now I'm convinced. The Nintendo DS graphics really got me. I can see now how you can confuse that with the real world. The next stage of the Me Too movement is just a bunch of women wearing headsets. The real question is, do they go to jail in VR or real life jail? Because it's all the same, I guess.
It's much like being in a room with other people, so you can approach them. As you get closer, their voice gets louder, they can use their arms, they can pretend to touch you, virtually as well, so it opens up sort of other possibilities for harassment.
My body was, responding as though physiologically it was happening in the physical world.
If you can't tell the difference between someone sexually assaulting you in real life or someone pretending in a fake world on a video game, then you shouldn't be in VR. That means you really can't tell the difference between anything that happens in the virtual world and reality. You're supposed to know that it's fake and that none of it is real. If you do not know that and you think what happens to you in that game is real, that's a big problem in itself. And sexual harassment in VR isn't something that only happens to women. It happens to men in addition to violence, verbal harassment, and many other things that happen to men and women every day in VR. I've had bottles thrown at me in VR. The difference is, I knew it was fake. I knew it wasn't real. I didn't actually get hurt. Nothing happened.
When these men came to attack me, I went into fight or flight mode, or freeze, and I froze. And suddenly I couldn't remember how to use the controllers. It took me a moment to kind of think through the experience that I just had and unpackage, was this something that I did wrong? I think about if that had been one of my daughters who had put on the headset that day.
Are you serious right now? If you allow your daughter to put on a headset and play online in a virtual world with no supervision, then you're a horrible parent. That's your fault. And you don't have to play online. You can play games in VR by yourself, and so can your daughter. You don't have to interact with anybody. You choose to interact with other people. You accept the risk of something happening. Just like when you go outside and you know that someone could harm you. You're accepting that risk. If you can't handle that, don't play in VR. This is a very simple fix. If anybody's harassing you in VR, take off the headset.
Young users are very common in these VR spaces, but when it comes to young girls in particular, they're often targeted with a sort of virtual harassment, purely because people recognise their voice as female.
Preventing the kind of hate and harassment Nina experienced, which the CCDH has witnessed happen to children and other marginalized groups as well.
After I shared my story, they implemented safety bubbles, which are set on as default. The safety bubbles prevent people from coming too close to you. And you can also block and report people in the space. If you block someone, then you can't see them anymore. But everyone else in the room can still see them, and they're still in the room with you. The only thing is that you visually can't see them.
So it's quite an incomplete solution.
No, it's not. It's a complete solution. If you can't see, hear, or interact with the person that's harassing you, then it doesn't matter what other people can see. They can also block them if they have a problem. That person doesn't need to be seen by anybody. And like I said, it's up to you to monitor your own activity. If you're in a place that you don't like in the VR world, take off the headset or leave the game and find another one. In the real world, if someone doesn't like another person, they walk away or leave the situation. And the VR world is no different. If you don't like the people there, don't interact with them. And sure as hell, don't allow your kids to do the same. Instead of falling into victimhood and trying to regulate something or blaming men for your problems, take accountability for yourself and your family, and don't let yourself get into those situations. Don't interact with people that you don't want to interact with. It's a very simple solution. And comparing real life sexual assault to something that happens in a video game is pretty offensive to those that have been sexually assaulted in real life. Anyone who has enough experience in the real world won't be affected by what stupid people have to say on the internet. And if they are, then they should stay away from the internet. The only reason this is being blown out of proportion is because she found a way to be a victim, and that's why she's doing all this. And to say that this is similar to a real life experience is a joke. Ask anybody who's actually experienced it and ask them if it has any similarity to what happens online or in video games. But that's all I have for this video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this video.